In today's video, we delve into the experiences of individuals who played key roles in espionage and faced imprisonment and torture during pivotal historical conflicts. These narratives not only detail their espionage activities, but also examine the severe physical and psychological challenges they endured while in captivity. Through these accounts, we gain insight into the personal costs of war and the resilience of individuals in the face of adversity. John McCain. John McCain's story during the Vietnam War is a testament to resilience, honor, and an unwavering commitment to his fellow service members. As a U.S. Navy pilot, McCain was shot down during a bombing mission over North Vietnam on October 26, 1967. He ejected from his aircraft but was seriously injured in the process, breaking both arms and a leg. Upon landing in a lake in Hanoi, McCain was captured by North Vietnamese forces and thus began his harrowing ordeal as a prisoner of war, POW, that would last more than 5 years. From the outset, McCain faced brutal treatment. His captors quickly learned that he was the son of Admiral John S. McCain Jr., the commander of all U.S. forces in the Pacific, which made him a high-value prisoner. Despite the severe injuries sustained during his capture, McCain received minimal medical treatment. His injuries were not properly treated, leading to lifelong physical disabilities. He was beaten, tortured, and interrogated for military information and propaganda purposes. The torture methods inflicted upon McCain and other POWs were both physically and psychologically devastating. McCain was subjected to rope bindings and prolonged periods of solitary confinement, which were used to break the prisoner's will. He was beaten regularly and endured the infamous torture rack, where his arms were painfully bound behind him and he was forced into stressful positions for hours. Despite the severe pain and the psychological strain, McCain refused to provide more than the minimum required information under the Geneva Conventions. One of the most notable aspects of McCain's captivity was his refusal to accept an early release offered by his captors, who sought a propaganda victory by releasing the son of a high-ranking U.S. military officer. Adhering to the military code of conduct, which stipulates that POWs should be released in the order they were captured, McCain refused to leave ahead of others who had been held longer. This act of defiance subjected him to even more severe torture, but it also marked him as a figure of immense moral courage and loyalty to his fellow POWs. McCain's resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship became a defining element of his character, both during his time as a POW and in his later political career as a U.S. Senator. His experiences as a POW shaped his views on war, the military, and the importance of adhering to American values, including the rule of law and human rights. After his release in 1973, McCain became a vocal advocate for veterans and POWs, drawing on his experiences to push for policies that supported military personnel and their families. Gary Powers. The U-2 pilot shot down over the Soviet Union in 1960 became a focal point in the Cold War narrative, embodying the intense espionage tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. Powers was piloting a high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft designed to collect intelligence undetected. However, on May 1, 1960, his plane was shot down by a Soviet surface-to-air missile, leading to his capture. The incident not only marked a significant diplomatic crisis, known as the U-2 incident, but also highlighted the personal risks faced by individuals involved in espionage activities during the Cold War. Powers' capture was a major embarrassment for the United States, which initially denied the purpose of the mission, only to be contradicted by the Soviet Union's presentation of the captured pilot and parts of the U-2 plane. Upon his capture, Gary Powers underwent an intense period of interrogation and psychological pressure by the Soviet authorities. While the specifics of physical torture have not been extensively detailed in historical accounts, it is clear that the Soviets aimed to extract as much intelligence as possible from Powers regarding U.S. surveillance techniques and the U-2 program. The psychological torture faced by Powers included long hours of interrogation, isolation, and the threat of severe punishment or death, tactics designed to break him down and force him to cooperate with the Soviet authorities. Despite the harsh conditions of his detention, Powers reportedly did not divulge sensitive information that could significantly compromise U.S. national security. He was put on trial in the Soviet Union and convicted of espionage, sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment. However, Powers' time in Soviet custody was cut short when he was released in 1962 as part of a high-profile prisoner exchange between the United States and the Soviet Union, with the Soviet intelligence officer Rudolf Abel being returned to the USSR. Odet Sansom. Odet Sansom was a heroine of World War II who served in the Special Operations Executive, SOE. She became one of the most celebrated female SOE agents, having shown remarkable courage and resilience. Sansom was recruited by the SOE in 1942 and was sent into German-occupied France in 1943. Under the codename Lys, she worked as a courier for the Spindle network of the French resistance based in Saint-Joriot. Her mission was to help coordinate the efforts of the local resistance groups to sabotage the German war effort. In April 1943, Sansom was arrested by the Gestapo. She was interrogated and tortured severely in an attempt to make her reveal the identities of her colleagues and details of SOE operations. Despite the torture, which included having her toenails ripped out, being starved and subjected to brutal beatings, Odet maintained a strict code of silence, protecting her fellow operatives. She was falsely told that her husband had been arrested and tortured, and she was threatened with death, but she still refused to give any information to the Gestapo. In a remarkable act of defiance, she even managed to scratch the address of the Gestapo headquarters in Paris into the bottom of a pot, which was later used to inform the Allies about the location of the Gestapo head office. Sansom was eventually sentenced to death and sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp. There, she endured further hardships but continued to show defiance and resilience. She survived the war and was released from Ravensbrück in April 1945. Eli Cohen. Eli Cohen is a name synonymous with one of the most remarkable espionage stories in the history of Israel. Unlike Gary Powers and John McCain, who were military pilots captured during their service, Eli Cohen was a civilian recruited by the Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency, for an undercover mission in Syria. His story is a testament to the critical yet perilous role that espionage plays in national security and international relations. Born in Alexandria, Egypt in 1924, Cohen moved to Israel after the Suez Crisis in 1956. He was recruited by the Mossad in the early 1960s to infiltrate the Syrian government. Adopting the alias Kamal Amin Thabit, Cohen went to Argentina to establish his cover as a Syrian businessman, returning to his homeland. In 1962, he moved to Damascus, where he quickly ingratiated himself with the political and military elite, gaining a reputation as a lavish spender and a man of influence. Cohen's espionage work in Syria is considered one of the greatest intelligence achievements in Israeli history. He provided the Mossad with a wealth of information on Syrian political and military strategies, including detailed reports on the Syrian army's positions in the Golan Heights, which proved crucial during the Six-Day War in 1967. Cohen was able to transmit information about the Syrian defense plans, fortifications, and even secret military installations. He also suggested to Syrian officials to plant trees to provide shade for their soldiers, which later served as markers for Israeli forces. However, Cohen's successful infiltration came to an abrupt end in January 1965 when Syrian counterintelligence, aided by Soviet experts and technology, discovered his true identity. He was captured, tried, and convicted of espionage. Despite international appeals for clemency, Cohen was publicly hanged in Damascus in May 1965. His execution was a significant blow to Israeli intelligence, but also highlighted the immense risks faced by spies operating in hostile territories. The video aimed to shed light on the often unseen personal toll of such activities on individuals. The discussion included insights into the challenges and adversities faced by those who operated in the shadows of international conflict. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of historical espionage narratives. Don't forget to subscribe to our Unnecessary Stories channel,